of course, it was a very, very close game. The Warriors pulled out the victory. It's like a 1-point win. Zay, your reaction to game one and game one only?
Man, this was a great start. To see how this is going to be playing out, I think it's going to be a really tough series. Both teams battle down the stretch. Ultimately, Golden State was able to keep their composure after, a crazy removal of Draymond Green early in the game. But overall, I'm just as a basketball player, as a fan, I'm excited about this series, man. I think it's going to be tough. Golden State managed to pull this one off, but it's tough to play in the Grindhouse in Memphis. So shout out to them, and shout out to these young Grizzlies too, though, for staying down and just battling it out. Ultimately, game one was a good one. Shout out to the Warriors.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to the Warriors. I did not like that call. That was definitely not grounds for an injection from the game for Draymond Green. I did not agree with that call, and I believe a lot of NBA fans did not agree with the call. Even some of the commentators on the game did not agree with it. But despite Draymond Green being out, who was a huge defensive presence for the Warriors and also a playmaker, but for the Warriors to find a way to win either way, awesome job. Shout out to them. And the Grizzlies were actually up in the fourth. I mean, not in the fourth, but they were up for a little bit. Then they got down. Yeah. And remember last series, they got down a lot in the fourth. It was like the Grizzlies always came back. But this is a different team. The Timberwolves were just. I'm going to get to them later. I'm going to save my comments for the Timberwolves for later. Right. But this is a different team. This is not the Timberwolves. That's the main point. This is a championship pedigree team right here. And despite Draymond being out, they showed their grit. I was kind of surprised with the early fouls, and Steve Kerr kept them in. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson had some fouls thrown up in the beginning as well, but kept them in. I agree with that call. It's you don't just hear that a lot. Normally just go through rotations at that point, but to stick with them, that says a lot about those players and Steve Kerr's trust in them. Ja played really well today.
Yes, sir.
Started the game with 2 threes.
I know. He had the outlaw shot cooking, man. I think that's the next thing he needs is to just develop that consecutive 2 to 3 threes or just jump shots in general. Because he's an attacker when it comes to offense. He's gonna get to the rim, but being able to knock down those threes when he gets to space is gonna be key. So that was good to see. Ja made a lot of good plays and maybe some decisions down the line he probably could have made better, but overall I was impressed with him. He came out pretty hot with I think the first 8 points of the game, and I don't really feel like they have a solid answer for Ja when it comes to how to contain him. So they're just gonna have to shut down the rest of those guys, but still they pull it off today. So
yeah. The other thing too, shout out to Jaren Jackson Jr. He had a breakout game as well. Got at least a 30 piece. I'm not sure how the amount of points he finished with, but he did at least have 30. He played great in game one. Last series wasn't so great. I just want to shout him out as well. It looks like injuries are picking up a little bit. Desmond Bane did not seem like himself today. Normally this guy is a sniper, but he was in my opinion, he was like the best player in round one for the Grizzlies. Because without Desmond Bane, I don't know if the Grizzlies would be where they are right now. Which is probably why Ja gave him the award, for most improved, because Desmond is definitely deserving of it. But shout out to Jaren Jackson Jr. He had a big game. He had some big blocks in the game as well, but it just wasn't enough. I really think this is an opportunity for the Grizzlies to really win this game. But now you find yourselves already down 0-1 when Draymond was out the game. and you're still at home. Remember, the goal is to win at home.
Yeah.
A lot of people say the playoff starts as soon as one team loses loses at home.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I mean, the Grizzlies rallied, and Desmond Bane has been a big part of it. I wouldn't say he's their best player, but I feel like he's been the most consistent player. I feel like no matter like the game, no matter the intensity, he in that first round series, he was always able to, just keep the pace of the game going for the Grizzlies. He was kind of like the heart of the team, even though I don't feel like he's the best player. I feel like Ja still, like, even though he didn't have the best performance throughout that series, he still was, because of his ability as a playmaker, he drew so much attention that it allowed guys like Bane to easily step into their role. And shout out to Desmond Bane still, like he still elevated his game pretty big for his, this may be his first or second playoff series, but a younger player stepping into a big role.
Let me clarify real quick. I ain't mean that Desmond Bane is the best player ever on the Grizzlies. Now I ain't say that.
Oh no.
Hold on now. I ain't say that, but I will admit that throughout the whole round one, because Ja was not Ja for like the first half of most of those games. But so I agree with you. Desmond Bane was consistent, and Ja did make some big plays at the end of some of those games. But to me, I think I really do think Desmond Bane was like the best player in round one. I'm not saying he's the best player from round one for the Grizzlies. I'm not saying he's the best player on the Grizzlies like overall, but he was the best player in